Bork. Welcome back everybody, it's your favorite Texan Nathurow with another video. I'm here with a top 10 facts about Sweden by LEMMiNO. I had never heard of LEMMiNO, so when I went to his YouTube channel for the first time, I found out that he was from Sweden. So I thought, well, if I'm going to watch one of his videos, which better one to start with than the top 10 facts about Sweden. This video is kind of old, it's back from 2014, but I'm still curious to see what they're going to say about Sweden. So without further ado, let's get started.
Välkommen till Sverige, ett land där snön smälter bort lagom till jul och där man hellre står upp än att ta en ledig plats bredvid någon annan på bussen. Ett land med så många blonda med blåa ögon att det helt enkelt fick bli färgerna på vår flagga. This is Sweden. The early history of Sweden.
Whoa, wait a minute. This guy already gave me a curveball. So he said you probably won't realize that what I'm saying isn't what the subtitles are saying. Okay, so then what was he saying? Anyway, let me know in the comments, please.
Begins around the 9th century when Swedes were merchant seamen well known for their far-reaching trade. You know them as Vikings, and Viking actually means to go on an expedition or to go raiding. Modern Sweden begins in 1397 when the Scandinavian nations were collectively called Kalmarunionen, or in English the Union of Kalmar.
Okay, nice. Whenever I think of any Scandinavian country, whether it be Sweden or Denmark or Norway, I can't help but think of Vikings. That's actually the first thing that comes to mind. And also, I love the Vikings show that came out in the History Channel. I think it's got like one more season left or half of a season left or something like that. And it's both been praised and criticized. Some people say that the show, timeline-wise, is very inaccurate, but then it's also been praised that it did a good job in capturing, like, I guess, the setting of how Scandinavia was back in the day, like what the clothes they used, like maybe capturing the culture of the Vikings during that time. I've also seen this flag plenty of times in other videos, but I never knew the official, I guess, name of the kingdom that it was under. So it's the Union of Kalmar. Cool. And it's got Iceland, Norway, Sweden, or a big chunk of Sweden, and Denmark, and a big chunk of Finland. Okay, let's keep going.
But during these years, diverging interests gave rise to a conflict that would hamper the union and ultimately leads to a definite breakup in 1523 when Gustav Vasa became king of Sweden. Sometime after Gustav Vasa had ascended the throne, something called the Swedish Empire was formed, and then we had a galactic war spanning several decades fighting...
Wait a minute. Oh, damn, what? He's going into Star Wars. But let's go back to that map really quick. Oh, okay, there it is. So, if you look at this map, notice that what is Estonia today is part of the Swedish Empire. Now, there's this running gag, like in the country ball community, that Estonia wants to be a Nordic country, but like the other Nordic countries, or Sweden in particular, doesn't allow Estonia to be classified as Nordic, and there's like this ongoing gag that, you know, Estonia is very upset about it. Is there a specific legitimate reason as to why the Nordic countries are so hesitant in having Estonia classified as a Nordic country? I've heard that it's because of some major cultural differences between the countries, but I'm not 100% certain. But anyway, yeah, so I just thought this map was interesting. Let's keep going.
Empire was formed, and then we had a galactic war spanning several decades fighting against the Swedish Republic and the Jedi Vikings.
Ja men Lucas, jag är ju för fan din pappa.
but that's for another video. No, but seriously, during this time, Sweden was actually one of the great European powers, and this time is even referred to as Stormaktstiden, which roughly translates to the great era of power. But in early 18th century, Sweden took part in the Great Northern War, which was disastrous for Sweden to say the least. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, Sweden lost most of its previously conquered territories, and these would later begin the formation of Norway and Finland. But despite its long history of war and conflicts with the neighboring countries, Sweden has stayed neutral ever since 1814. Sweden is one of the most internet-active countries in the world. In fact, with a population of 9.5 million, there's about 500,000 people who are not using the internet in any way. So, statistically speaking, we're fourth in the world, only beaten by a few percent by Norway, Iceland and the Falkland Islands. Sweden also has the largest proportion of personal computers in Europe, with 500 PCs per 1,000 people. The world's largest scale model of the solar system exists in Sweden. It is in the scale of 1 to 20 million and stretches 915 kilometers from the capital Stockholm all the way to Kiruna. The huge spherical building named Globen in Stockholm represents the sun, and then the planets as well as dwarf planets along with some larger asteroids are spread out across the country.
Whoa. What? What? That is pretty freaking awesome, but also super random. I'm just super curious as to who decided one day, you know what we need? We need a model of the solar system that spans hundreds of kilometers. Yeah. Skull. That is something. Let's keep going.
Swedes are apparently very good at recycling waste products. In fact, only 4% of all waste generated ends up on landfills. But although this may seem like it could only be a positive and maybe even enviable achievement compared to countries where this is a problem, Swedes are actually too good at it. We're so good at recycling waste that we have to import more waste from Norway. 80,000 tons every year to be exact. This is because Sweden relies on waste to heat and provide electricity to hundreds of thousands of homes through a waste to energy program. So we're basically recycling our fuel.
Oh, damn, that is... Hey, that's pretty awesome though. I mean, that's such a first world problem to have. It's like, we're so good at recycling, can you please give us more stuff to recycle for you so that we can keep our ourselves going. That's a pretty unique situation. I like it though. I like it.
In Japan, there's a town called Sweden Hills, and it's exactly what the name suggests, a town that looks exactly like a regular Swedish neighborhood. The idea began after the Swedish ambassador visited the town and remarked how similar the atmosphere and scenery was to his native Sweden.
Nice.
Only a few years ago, video games was considered to only be played by, should I say, nerds. Today, gaming is everywhere, with people on YouTube, for example, making a living simply by letting people watch them play video games. But you truly must realize how far gaming has come when only last year a school in Stockholm, Sweden started introducing compulsory Minecraft lessons. This was done by teachers hoping the Swedish computer game would help the children to further develop their thinking.
Yeah, that is actually something that I've heard of. Not about the whole teaching kids about Minecraft in particular, but how gaming has become so big that now I've heard that some schools are starting to accept it as an official sport. You know, like if you are in like the football team or the tennis team or whatever, now there's like a gaming team that you can join and they'll go like compete against other schools. That is something that I pretty much like only dreamed about back when I was still in grade school, because I've played video games all my life, and man, a part of me wishes something like that was available while I was still in school. But that's really cool that gaming has evolved, I guess, to that point, and that Sweden is also like kind of taking action on it. So good stuff.
Like any other country, Sweden is the source for a lot of inventions and companies that are widely popular today.
IKEA.
For example, Anders Celsius was the inventor of the now called Celsius thermometer scale. Alfred Nobel invented dynamite as well as instituted the Nobel Prize. Niels Bohlin invented the safety belt, Gideon Sundbäck invented the modern-day zipper, Baltzar von Platen and Carl Munters invented the refrigerator, one of the first mobile phones was invented by Swedes in 1956, IKEA was founded in 1943, the Swedish site The Pirate Bay is the largest BitTorrent site in the world, Spotify is one of the largest music streaming sites in the world.
Alright, so, man, he brought up Pirate Bay. I don't think Pirate Bay is around anymore. Is it? Well, whether it is or not, I didn't know it was from Sweden, so... Cool. Let's keep going.
The popular car manufacturers Volvo, Saab, Koenigsegg and Scania were all founded in Sweden. H&M, which actually stands for Hennes och Mauritz, is the second largest clothing retailer worldwide. And Absolut Vodka is the third largest brand of alcoholic spirits in the world and is sold in 126 countries. Sweden is one of the few countries in the European Union to still retain its own currency and not use the euro. The currency is called krona, which was introduced in 1873. $1 is about 6.5 Swedish crowns. But Sweden is actually obligated to adopt the euro at some point since it joined the European Union. However, using a loophole in the law, it's been able to declare itself ineligible. The only other two European Union countries also to refuse to adopt the euro are Denmark and the United Kingdom. The shortest name for a location in the world exists in Sweden as well as Norway and only consists of one letter, the letter called Å, because in Swedish we have 3 extra letters at the end of the alphabet, namely Å, Ä and Ö. Ö can mean island and Å is a word for river. We all know that my English is absolutely flawless, beautiful pronunciations such as character, Danish, jello, and let's not forget rural. Sweden actually has a higher percentage of English speakers than Canada, and it's only about 8% behind the United States.
Okay, so that is definitely something I noticed, not just with the Scandinavian or like Nordic countries, but Europe in general. I feel like they do a much better job in making sure that you do in fact not only just learn a second language, but are fluent in speaking it as well. Here in the United States, you know, depending on where you're brought up, you know, if you're more in the South, it's required that you probably take a Spanish class. Maybe if you're more in the north, like maybe towards the Quebec region of Canada, maybe they'll push French more on you. But I feel like people in the United States don't take learning that second language as seriously as probably people in Europe. We should probably take a look at your guys' language curriculum and see how you guys get it to, I guess, stick more, you know, with the people, not just like speak somewhat of the language while you're taking the class and then just kind of forget what you learn. Anyway, let's keep going.
This has a lot to do with Sweden's tendency to prefer subtitled content over dubbing, but English has also been a compulsory subject for Swedish students since the 1940s. And on top of all this, Swedish was not announced the official language of Sweden until 2009.
I natt jag drömde något som jag aldrig drömt förut. Jag drömde det var fred på jord och alla krig var slut.
Very nice. So that last part was pretty interesting. He said that the Swedish language wasn't official until 2009.
Swedish was not announced the official language of Sweden until 2009.
That's peculiar. As old as Sweden is, why wouldn't Swedish be the official language? I mean, in the United States, English technically isn't the official language, but I mean, the country is much younger than Sweden, and you know, it's kind of a melting pot of different nationalities. But why is that? Why wasn't Swedish the official language? If you have more insight in that, let me know. This was a very good video. Plenty of things about Sweden that I didn't know, like that model of the solar system that spans hundreds of kilometers. That's damn, that's pretty cool. And the fact that you guys have probably the most unique problem with recycling that I've ever heard of. Again, this video was made back in 2014, and I know since then the population has reached over 10 million. But yeah, let me know if anything has changed since then. Anyway guys, that's all the time I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please don't forget to like, subscribe, show some love in the comments below. Please do all that good stuff, and I will see you all in the next video as always. Peace out, guys.